Red Bull. When it's not giving its customer wings, the company is busy sponsoring extreme sports, Formula One teams, and breaking world records. But behind this global brand lies a wild origin story, one that doesn't start in a boardroom, but on a duck farm. This is how a former duck farmer helped create one of the most profitable and iconic beverage empires in the world. Let's go. Now, Red Bull's story starts on a duck farm in post-war Thailand. In 1923, Chaleo Yovitia was born in rural Thailand, one of 5 children in a poor farming family. They raised ducks, grew fruit, and scraped by like many others in the countryside. Now, Chaleo didn't have a formal education, but what he did have was a hustle. Eventually, he moved to pharmaceuticals and started his own company, making antibiotics and other over-the-counter drugs. But in the 1970s, he noticed a growing demand for energy-boosting tonics, cheap, caffeine-packed drinks marketed to laborers, truck drivers, and blue-collar workers who needed to stay awake during long shifts in Thailand's humid heat. So in 1976, he created a drink called Krating Dung, which literally means Red Bull in Thai. It was sweet, syrupy, and came in small golden bottles, not cans. It tasted medicinal. It wasn't flashy, but it worked, and word spread fast among Thailand's working class. Then entered Dietrich Mateschitz, an Austrian marketing exec for Blendex, a toothpaste company. While traveling in Thailand in 1982, Mateschitz tried Krating Dung to shake off jet lag, and it worked so well that he saw a business opportunity. In 1984, the two struck a deal. Chaleo and Mateschitz partnered up. Chaleo would retain 51% of the company, while Mateschitz would receive 49%. They modified the flavors for Western tastes, added carbonation, and launched Red Bull GmbH in 1987. Little did anyone know, they weren't just launching a new beverage, they were launching a new category: energy drinks. Launching a new drink in a market saturated by soda giants like Pepsi and Coca-Cola should have been a death sentence. But Red Bull didn't follow the rules. From day one, Dietrich Mateschitz knew he couldn't outspend the big players. So instead, he tried to outsmart them with some of the most boldest, weirdest, and most unorthodox marketing the world had ever seen. Red Bull didn't just want to sell a drink. They wanted to sell a lifestyle. While other brands were throwing money at commercials and shelf space, Red Bull sent reps to college campuses and nightclubs. They handed out free cans from branded Mini Coopers with giant Red Bull cans strapped to the roof. But one of the most genius tactics? They stacked empty Red Bull cans on trash bins outside of bars and clubs. The message was subtle but powerful. Everybody's drinking this. It created a sense of FOMO and social proof without even having to buy an ad. It was psychological warfare. If people thought Red Bull was already popular, they'd want to try it too. And it worked. The brand leaned into its scrappy, rebellious image with stunts, slogans, and sleek packaging that made it feel like streetwear more than a beverage. But Red Bull didn't just enter the market. They made you feel like if you weren't drinking it, you were missing out. And by the early 2000s, the brand was already becoming a cult favorite across Europe, especially with students, skateboarders, and late-night crowds. And then came the extreme sports. Now, Red Bull was not content with just being a popular drink. They wanted to own adrenaline. Instead of going after traditional celebrities or pro teams, Red Bull set its sights on different kinds of athletes. The daredevil, skydivers, snowboarders, cliff jumpers, parkour artists, BMX riders, anyone pushing the human limits. Red Bull didn't just want to sponsor them, it elevated them. These athletes just didn't wear the logo, they embodied it. This strategy was not just about selling drinks, it was about selling the lifestyle of being fast, fearless, and free. Soon, Red Bull began creating its own events. Red Bull Flugtag, where people launched homemade flying machines off ramps into water. Red Bull Crashed Ice, downhill ice skating meets roller derby. And Red Bull X Alps, a paragliding ultramarathon across the Alps. They even launched their own Formula One team, Red Bull Racing, which would go on to dominate the sport. But the real power move came when Red Bull realized they didn't have to just sponsor athletes or events. They could own the narrative. Red Bull built its own production powerhouse, Red Bull Media House, creating glossy documentaries, behind-the-scenes athlete stories, and jaw-dropping stunts. They launched a record label, a TV channel, and started producing some of the most watched action content on YouTube. But it wasn't enough. Red Bull took it to another level. They built an empire. Red Bull now owns dozens of sports teams across the globe, like FC Red Bull Salzburg, RP Leipzig, New York Red Bulls, and Red Bull KTM. But nothing captured the world's attention like what happened in 2012. Red Bull sent up Australian daredevil Felix Baumgartner to the edge of space. Literally. From a helium balloon floating 128,000 feet above Earth, Felix jumped. He became the first human to break the sound barrier in freefall, falling faster than the speed of sound, entirely sponsored by Red Bull. From a duck farm to the edge of space, Red Bull wasn't just growing, it was flying. For all of Red Bull's success, it has not been immune to controversy. In fact, it's had plenty. Let's start with the health concerns. From the beginning, Red Bull was hit with warnings over its high caffeine and sugar content, especially when mixed with alcohol. Studies began linking energy drinks to heart issues, dehydration, and hospitalizations, particularly in younger drinkers. Some countries even banned or restricted the sale at one point, including France, Norway, and Denmark. Next came the lawsuits. In 2014, Red Bull paid $13 million to settle a class action lawsuit in the United States. Now, why is this? Well, because the consumers said that the slogan "Red Bull gives you wings" was false advertising. While clearly it was meant as a metaphor, plaintiffs argued that the product didn't actually improve physical or mental performance any more than a cup of coffee. Red Bull didn't admit any wrongdoing, but it agreed to settle. Then there's the cultural criticism. Red Bull has built an empire on adrenaline, but some argue that they promote recklessness. From death-defying stunts to extreme sports, the brand walks a fine line between awe-inspiring and dangerous. Over the years, multiple athletes sponsored by Red Bull have died during extreme sports competitions or filming high-risk content. While the company often honors their athletes, critics question whether Red Bull does enough to prioritize their safety over the spectacle. And lastly, there's the corporate criticism. Despite its wild image, Red Bull is a tightly run corporate machine. Some critics have taken aim at its lack of transparency, its minimal philanthropic presence compared to its profits, and even the cult-like loyalty it cultivates both in its fans and its employees. Today, Red Bull is still a privately owned company. The Uvitia family controls 51%, while the remaining 49% belongs to the estate of Dietrich Mateschitz. The company sells nearly 12 billion cans a year in over 175 countries, generating more than 12 billion in annual revenue. That's more than Monster, Rockstar, and 5-Hour Energy combined. Chalio's son, Charlam, is now one of Thailand's richest men, with a personal fortune estimated to be at over 33 billion. Red Bull's story isn't just about a beverage, it's about a vision. Starting in a duck farm in Thailand, to doing the racing circuits, to selling billions of dollars of cans a year, and jumping out of space. This is the combination of a great product, great branding, and a great culture. And with that, I'm Evan, and thanks for watching. If you liked what you just saw, then click on the video here. Also, if you haven't, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos.